Okay, so I am a couple days late, but my 3 months on testosterone was on Monday, and it's Thursday now. um, but it was kind of hard to find time to do a video because my grandma and my aunt are visiting right now. So plus I'm in 3 online classes, and then I could make a video at like 1 o'clock in the morning when everybody's in bed, but then I was like, I tend to ramble really bad when I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning. So 3 months on T plus like 3 days. I've definitely noticed changes, um, especially because um, I can feel it like in my voice. I can hear it in my voice, especially like when other people who aren't around me on a daily basis, they've noticed changes too. Um, as for changes that I'm making, my voice is getting deeper. I'm getting more hairy. Like I'm getting pretty hairy on my face. Yeah, look at that. Like that's and then there's hair here too. Um, I'm getting hairy on my arms, more hairy. I'm getting hairy on my legs, my stomach. Like I've always had like a trail or whatever of like black hair like ever since I was little, and my doctors think that's because I've always had more testosterone since over estrogen. So and but now I'm getting like really fine blonde hairs like everywhere. My legs, I've always I haven't shaved since I came out, which was November of last year or February of last year. So my legs are pretty hairy, but like it's getting thicker, and it's like up top where I do my shots are getting really fine blonde hairs now. Other changes I've noticed, they say that um, I don't want to be gross, but like it's a scientific thing. Your like vagina gets smaller, like the opening is getting smaller. I noticed that because okay, so funny story. My friends and I went to the beach last week for like a week, and we were in our like motel, which was kind of like an apartment really, but we were in the motel, and I'm going to the bathroom, and uh the mirror was like right on the door, and the toilet was like right in front of the door, so like you just could see everything, and I was just kind of like whatever. I wasn't really like looking in the mirror, and then I kind of looked, and then I was like, is there something like stuck there? But no, that's just the changes that I've been making, and I didn't really notice them until the beach. I mean, so that is something I kept to myself. Like my mom uh, and I kind of have an open relationship, but I'm still not gonna be like, guess what, mom? um, which it's a good thing though, because when I eventually have bottom surgery, like, that's what they make your penis out of is your clitoris. So it's good that it's getting bigger. But then that's still, as much as my mom is supportive, that's still information she doesn't want to hear from her 22-year-old child. Like, hey, mom, guess what? I'm growing a penis. Like, just that's stuff that you don't share. But I did tell my friends because we have a very open relationship, and I'm like, this is probably gross, but I'm really excited about this. And they were like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited for you just because it's a huge deal. Um, this is another reason I wanted to wait until my parents and my relatives were out of the house to make this video, because you know this is just information that they don't need. Um, but I will probably watch my video from like 3 weeks ago and just kind of compare voices. Why is this moving all the time? I don't stop it. Drives me insane. Anyway, oh, now it's really dark. Anyway, uh, I went through on Monday. I used the last of my testosterone, and I'm keeping this vial. I got my second like today. I'm keeping this just because it's like the first one. Um, and so I kind of have like a transition box of like milestones. Like I kept the post-it note from my therapist, like the first time I called her, the first time she helped me. I have like the note from Planned Parenthood where I get my hormones. So, like, if it wasn't for Planned Parenthood, I would not be doing this. I would still be on gel, and I would still be doing my own doses because I just got really Minnesota there. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I started tea a month before I did shots. Like, I started with gel because I couldn't find doctors here that were willing to prescribe testosterone. I bought it offline and just started myself. And you're not supposed to do that because you don't know the dose you're on. You don't know how it's going to affect you. You haven't taken labs. Like, you're not supposed to do that. And so I finally just was like, okay, I don't care if I have to drive either to like somewhere, because I knew my therapist is in Richmond, and Richmond is um, way more trans friendly than where I'm at in North Carolina. But I just started Googling, and then I called Planned Parenthood, and like the closest one was in Winston-Salem. And at the time I was dating my ex, and he lives near Winston-Salem. So I was like, I'm just gonna call them. And then they said, well, we don't do transgender services, but the campus in Raleigh does, and that's where I went. So I kept that. I kept my hormone letter. I kept my um, I have my the first sign for my dorm room last year. Well, I guess this is almost 2 years ago. Um, from 2012, like that 2011, 2012, that school year. I kept that, like the first sign that my community advisor made that said Blake. I kept that. It's hanging on my door. Um, so I did that. But I kept stuff. So I have this little tiny little vial, and it's my testosterone. Um, so basically what I do is I have an 1.5-inch needle and I fill it up. I'm on 25 milligrams or milliliters because it's liquid. I'm on 25 of that um, every week. Originally, I was supposed to do 50 every 2 weeks, but then my insurance was like, well, I'm not going to give it to you unless you um, do 25 once a week. So then I take this 1.5-inch needle and I stick it into my thigh. And I have Spider-Man tattoo band-aids that I got. And I also have SpongeBob ones because, if I'm going to stick myself with a needle once a week, I want to have a fun band-aid. But no, and then this is like a 200 milliliter bottle, and that lasted me like a month. And then I get 3 of these, and then I go back to Raleigh, and they test my levels, make sure that I'm being healthy. This is really dark now. I don't like how it's zooming. Stop doing that. Anyway, uh, and then I get my refill. But then school-wise, I fully applied to Middlesex University in London as like an undergraduate international student. So I'm not gonna study abroad. I'm gonna go there like as a student. It's kind of really exciting. I have the grades to go. They they know that I was published. I applied for the creative writing and English literature like combined degree. So in 3 years, if I get in, I will have my bachelor's degree, and then it's nice because then I'm only studying the stuff that I want to study. I don't have to do my math. I don't have to do my science. Like I got out of it. Like I'm done. And then that makes it a lot easier to try and immigrate, which is what I do want to do. I don't want to stay in America. I know that the UK isn't perfect, but it's way better than where I'm at. And if I was going to stay in the US, I would go back to Minnesota. And it's kind of just become clear that that's not an option for me, at least right now. And so I do want to immigrate. I wanted to immigrate for a really long time. But so I went to my college today, the one I've been at for the last year, and I talked to my English professor and I said, hey, I've wanted to go to England. And she was like, yeah, like everybody knows you want to go to England. And I'm like, well, I applied for this university and I'm hoping that you'd be a reference for me. And she said, absolutely, you were one of my favorite students. But she was like, what name should I put it under? Because I'm openly transgender. And I said, they know that I'm legally a girl, but they know that I prefer the name Blake. They know that I prefer masculine pronouns. It's not a problem. They're just like, okay, whatever. Housing wise, I think I just get my own room, which is what they were gonna do for me at UNCG. But I don't think I'm gonna go to UNCG. But at this point, I still might, because my doctors might say, hey, it's you're transitioning, you're in the middle of it, like you're 3 months on hormones. But if I did go to London, I would go in October, so that's exciting. But then if I go to Greensboro, probably won't be for another year, and I don't want to live at home for another year. If I have to, I have to, but I'd rather not. Just because it's really awkward. My dad and I haven't like talked in a really long time. We don't really talk. I came home after a week at the beach and he like didn't even say anything to me. But I was surprised because I did pierce my lip and I thought like he was gonna flip, but he didn't say anything. So I think he has just kind of like given up on talking to me, which is where we were when I first came home. May of 2011 or 2012. I came home for a month and I was trying to kind of figure out where they stood on things. And I mean, when I came out to my parents while I was at college, like living on campus and everything, they were just kind of like, you know what, we're not trying to change you, but like we don't want this. And my dad kind of just stopped talking to me, and I would call home and he'd be like, talk to your mom, I have nothing to say to you. So we're kind of at that point again. He gets upset when my mom calls me Blake. My mom is trying really hard with my name and my pronouns. She wanted at one point for me to change my name to Patrick, just because that's the male version of my name. And I was named after both of my grandmothers. And I said, you know what, Mom? I love my grandmothers dearly, but I'm not a Patrick. I'm not a Patricia. I'm Blake. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not. I've been living as Blake for a year and a half. I'm sorry that you feel like you picked a name for me and it was wrong. And she and I are going to therapy in like a week and a half. So my therapist and I are gonna talk to my mom, and I'm trying to convince my therapist is like, you need to get out of your house. Like you need to get into a supportive environment. And every doctor I have is saying, get out of where you live. So I mean it's coming, but it depends on when. So basically I today have to finish all my homework for the week. I have like 3 papers due, and I have uh like a project. I just have a lot of stuff to do, but then I'm also working on my application because I've submitted it, but I still have to do my reference. I still have to send them a copy of my portfolio. I have to send them my passport, like the opening pages, where it's like my picture and my name, just so that they're like, yeah, okay, you do have a passport. And then I have to apply for a visa and have my visa approved once I'm accepted by October. So, I mean, I have a lot of stuff to do, but so that's what I'm up to. I'm going to try and do a video next week. I might do one of me taking my shot. I'm not sure because, like, it might be cool to see, it might be cool to document, but I'm not sure because, some people are, like, really grossed out by that. But hey, I mean, uh, I'm working on it. So, I hope everyone's doing well, and I will talk to you guys again some other time. All right, take care.